You know the saying, you see it a lot now? We're saying like, hey, boomer. The towing industry kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
Hey, boomer. Yes, you could still do it with your 1947 homes with the arm that articulates off to the side, the first version of a rotator. Yes, you're right. You probably could. But why would you? When we have fully rotating, automated, self-leveling, integrated electronic scales, why would you?
Cost would be a big thing for a lot of people.
I imagine maintenance costs on a 1950 something homes would probably be a little high.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I get it. It can be done. But don't criticize others for finding new and innovative ways to do it just because you're not there. And that's fine. Right? You're right. Cost is a big thing.
The rotator thing, sure, I can understand why you wouldn't drop $500,000 on a new rotator, right? But like a tool like the BakPul hitch, that's under $1,000 investment, right? To try it.
But it's
right?
like anything. Oh, I got forks. Have you seen the price of forks?
Yeah.
And it's ironic to see people go, wow, that is stupid. I would just fork it off the hitch.
Yeah. Well, you're putting the same weight load on that hitch. So obviously you can't say that hitch isn't rated for that if you're forking off the hitch.
Exactly.
And
so what is
a lot of beds, the tool is made, I'm pretty sure he pretty much drove beds. A Century bed, I haven't seen a 10 series Century bed ever have forks on it before.
Yeah, well, the problem is a lot of times you can't get the reach, and then, all you need is a set of tall forks and okay, so now I got the regular forks, I got the tall forks, I got the fork extensions, I got everything else. No, all I need is one simple tool. I'm not going to sit here and drool over it and say, oh, you're going to use this on every toe, right? But people are just dumb. Oh, what about the piece of shit rusted out,
Well, you got to do your due diligence and check this stuff. It's not a rookie tool.
No.
So is a rotator. A rotator's not a rookie tool.
Exactly. Proper training. If you're saying, oh, rusted out and the lawsuits are, it's because you got stupid operators that you wouldn't trust to have it. And don't get me wrong, I know of plenty of stupid operators I wouldn't want running it either. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not sitting there going, we're all geniuses in my neck of the woods. But at the same time, you can't shit on a product. Because your operators don't carry enough combined IQ points to make it work. Or to find a situation in which it would work.
You would give your operator who wants to run the rotator adequate training, as you should with any new tool you're adding to your company. It could be a simple, a 2-minute conversation of, this is what not to do, this is how to keep you safe for certain tools.
Or when you're going to use it, call me and I'll walk you through if it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to put it on a cube truck, single rear wheel. Is it empty? Sure. Give her hell. Yeah. Look at the hitch, inspect the hitch, make sure everything looks good. Hell, FaceTime me. Yeah. Right? But you're going to throw it on a 1992 Jimmy loaded full of scrap. That's been, the hitch is being held on by a couple rust flakes. No, have some common sense. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. That's what a lot of it comes down to. It's common sense.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Towing Life Podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, TowManG, and as usual, I am joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. PlainGuy.
What is going on, G? What is going on?
Oh, well, not too much. Built some chicken tractors, or I'm in the process of building chicken tractors.
You're so hick. I love it. No, it is, I don't know where you're listening from, and I feel bad if you're on the West Coast, because I believe they're getting killed again with cold weather, but out where we are, it is like 20-some degrees, sunny. It's been a beautiful week. Spring is here. I've started the yard cleanup, the patio cleanup, getting everything ready, firing, so that we can have, I'm a big patio guy. I am a sit out on a patio, have a lollipop, or a wobbly pop, as we like to call them, and have company over, have some music, and just unwind after a long week or a long day or a long recovery, whichever comes first.
I just signed up for my fire permit today too. So
yeah, see, we need permits where we are. I'm under the understanding that we have one.
Well, if you rent, you still need to get approval from the landlord.
Yes, I have. We've gotten approval through him, and he apparently has a permit.
Okay.
So our neighbors are all pretty understanding here. And again, we're not having bonfires in the backyard. Like
I'm clearing like 5 acres worth of brush. So my fire tonight's going to be pretty large.
Yeah. You need a little bit more understanding and cooperation from your local fire department than I do for my my little 2-foot logs that I might have 2 of them on the go at the same time.
Yeah, no, I'm pulling out 20, 25-foot trees and throwing them on in like 2 pieces.
Well, this is the one thing in our area and in Ontario, if anyone heats with wood, I'm telling you, after the tornado that ripped through part of Ontario last summer that took down a ton down this way, and then the ice storm that we just had about a week here, 2 weeks ago, maybe now. I don't know what you guys had up there, but it was bad. I lost a branch in my backyard, pretty large size branch, and it fell like dead center. I've been wanting to get a new fence on the one section. And I'm like, I heard a branch broken in the backyard. One of the neighbors let me know. And I'm like, oh, please tell me it fell on the fence. Please. I've got an L-shaped yard. It was an L-shaped branch that landed dead center of the yard, didn't touch anything. So out come the chainsaws and out cleaning everything off and getting it ready. And so, but what I was getting to with that is that firewood better be cheap in the next couple of years once this stuff dries, because we have an abundance. Anyone with a chainsaw has logs and logs and logs of wood. So there cannot be a reason.
It's a good way to make money too.
Absolutely.
Firewood.
Absolutely.
There's a really good markup if you've got the equipment and the time to do it.
Yeah, it's a great hustle. I support anyone that has a hustle.
Yeah. Even if you don't have a bunch of wood yourself, to buy like a truckload of logs that's just fallen from the forest they cut down and brought down to you is fairly cheap. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Again, you and I live 2 very different lifestyles.
I know.
So you would have a much better understanding and experience with that than I would. So I will take your word for it.
Yeah, you better.
It is a good time, before we get too far into it, to mention it. Any questions, comments, concerns for the show, we always appreciate them. We always appreciate some of the emails we've gotten. I've shared them with you, G. We won't talk about them on the show here. Are awesome, heartwarming. Remind us why we do this show week in, week out. Like, don't forget, we have full-time jobs. Well, G doesn't, but we have.
I've got 2 full-time jobs, okay?
Okay, fair enough. Exactly. We're involved in the towing industry just like you guys. So like we have a lot of time that we put in at work, and then to find the time to sit down and do this show week after week. So the emails and the questions and everything that you guys send, it does mean a lot to us. So we do appreciate it. You can contact us easiest way. Head over to www.towinglife.ca. You will find contact us forms there. You will find information where to order the BakPul hitch. You will find the recovery of the month. Don't forget, that is still going on. We have done January, February, March. Next up is April. It's crazy we're only in April, and I'm talking about 20, 30 degree weather. But next will be April. There's May, June, July. You have plenty of chances to win. Submit often. Any cool recovery photos you get, you can win a $50 Canadian Amazon gift card. Right? 3 down, 9 to go. And a chance, or a spot, not a chance, but a spot in our 2024 calendar that will become available for sale at the end of 2023. So be sure to get your recoveries in. Head over to www.towinglife.ca/recovery today to submit. You can email us directly at thetowinglife@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can message us there at the Towing Life Podcast.
YouTube.
If you are, I was getting to the YouTube.
Okay.
If you're watching over on the YouTube side, do not forget, you can always leave a comment down below. Hit the like, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, hit the notify. That way, every time a new episode comes out every Tuesday, and we are consistent like clockwork, as crazy as it has made us sometimes, we have a new episode coming out every Tuesday, and we appreciate you guys joining us week in, week out for those episodes.
Are you still offering free shipping on the BakPul hitches in Canada for this month?
Absolutely. So the whole story behind that, it's not even for this month. It is until I find the time to sort out my issue with my online ordering section of the BakPul hitch. So that is what it is. The system that I was using failed me. And so the system that I am now using is directly through a different setup that I have, that I've always had when I do my billing.
Mhm.
So what I have done is I have not figured out how to not charge or not have the charge go through so that I can charge the shipping after. We can discuss it, So I just said, you know what? Anywhere in Canada, for until I get this problem solved, but at least the month of April, free shipping on the BakPul hitches anywhere in Canada.
Yeah.
So I'm going to eat that one. I already have started to, but we've got a fresh batch that are on their way in now because we keep moving them and we keep having to get more and more in. And obviously these things aren't on mass production like you would expect a lot of tools to be. So there is a lead time on them. So head over to BakPul or towinglife.ca/BakPul, BakPul. Or if you're ordering from the States and looking to get one, head right over to BakPulHitches.com, BakPul Hitches.com. Get yours today.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
No problem. I figured we haven't even said anything about that on the show this month.
Yeah, we have not promoted the free shipping. I am a terrible promotion person. So,
but it was funny. Like last week, you did the show with Robin, your wonderful wife. And I now share my office space with the girlfriend so she can do her cricketing stuff. So as I'm editing it, I've got it on my speakers and she's standing on the other side. And every time you ask a question, like, what is a snatch block? She yells out the answer to me. And now I'm sitting here waiting for Robin to get her answer out.
She did not do well.
No.
My wife didn't. The one thing that I learned, and all of you listening would have learned, is that my wife hates towing.
Yes.
That was pretty much the rundown we had after the show. I'm like, how do you think it went? Because she was more comfortable than I thought she was going to be. Mm-hmm. She was actually well-spoken and did really well because she's never been in front of a camera, in front of a mic and, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you really hate towing? She's like, yeah, you asked me to talk about towing. I hate towing. I love you and you're in towing. There's a difference.
Yeah.
So that was a great episode. If you didn't watch it, go back and check out episode 87 with my wonderful wife, Robin, where we discussed the good, the bad, and kind of the ugly, throwing it back.
There wasn't too much good. There really
wasn't. I don't think there was any.
No, I think you kept trying to steer some good out of her, and she shut you down real quick. And I said to Amanda, my girlfriend, I was like, do you want to do a episode like next week to see what my significant other says? She was like, no, I'm not doing that.
I don't like towing either. I don't like towing. It's one thing we found that the significant others don't normally love it. They support it because it's something that we're passionate about. And if you found someone who truly loves you, they'll support you in all your endeavors. Yeah. And that's about the extent of what Robin is when it comes to towing.
But we also watch Heavy Rescue 401 and Highway Through Hell a lot too. So she picks up on a few of those things. So she knew NRC and Sentry for like the makes, and she knew what a snatch block was. And I think there was a question about a skate on there, and she was like, "That's the thing you put under the tire, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." So
So she's obviously more in depth and more knowledgeable than my wife, and it is. And I couldn't like my wife if I had an episode of Heavy Rescue on or Highway Through Hell.
Can you put Friends on instead, please?
Oh my God. No, she'll just sit there playing on her phone. She won't complain too much. She'll just sit there playing on her phone. She will not pay attention to a single thing other than if she sees someone she knows, right? Because we know a couple of the guys from there and that she'll, kind of, oh, hey, look, it's Bill. Right. That kind of stuff. But no, for the most part, she's, can you put an episode of Friends on? Hey, do you ever seen the one? And if you haven't, you need to go find it called Hell on the Highway, I believe. So Hell on the Highway was based in Northern California. Some of these guys are donkeys. Absolute donkeys. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to shit on another operator in the industry because it was more reality than, well, I mean, they're all reality, but it was based more a little bit on the light duty side, light to mid. Yeah. It was up in the mountains because there's mountains and snow in Northern California. Did you know that? Because I didn't. Yeah. And it's a different spin on it. It was a different attempt at it. So if you haven't, I don't know where you'll find it. I could probably do some research while G goes on a rant on our next topic. But I'll see if I can find where we can watch it.
What topic are we going to talk about next? We didn't go over this.
Whatever you want, my good friend. It is all in your hands while I do some research because we don't have producer Sarah.
Okay. So I've noticed throughout my years of towing that some guys, and I'm not sure of the proper term on this, but I've just called it foot out the door syndrome. Now, when I say those words in that sentence, I'm hoping something goes off in your head and say an operator's name pops into your head as soon as you hear foot out the door syndrome. And what I mean by that is, so let's say I work for you and I give you 2 weeks or a month's notice, right? Let's just go for a month.
Yeah.
In between that time, I give you a month's notice, and that actual date that I leave, my give a fuck goes from here to barely any at all, right? Whether that's providing good customer service or trying to better the company because I'm leaving, it's not going to benefit me in the long run, or just going above and beyond, maintaining trucks, showing up on time, staying late the odd time to catch up on paperwork or whatever you ask or expect from your operators. It's different from company to company. And I've seen this multiple times in different operators, and each operator will have a little bit different of a mindset. I've seen it myself too, after I've given my notice that I'm leaving. But I'm a firm believer, and I tell especially the rookies that are coming into the industry that aren't 100% sure if it's for them yet. I always say, if you give 2 weeks notice, work your bag off in those last 2 weeks. Make that company miss you. Don't burn that bridge. If you work your bag off in the last 2 weeks, the last month, to do better than what you have previously, you are always going to have a place to come back to, because that last 2 weeks, that last month is probably what's going to resonate with those other employees and the bosses most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're going to take in. It's so easy to ruin a good reputation and ruin a good working. Let's be honest. It's okay to leave or to make a change. It happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Business
At one point
is business.
in your career, there is business decisions that need to be made.
Yep.
I mean, I respect an operator that you hear has been with the company 25, 30 years, 15 years. I respect that. And if you find the right company, I believe that is something that can easily enough be done.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, in the towing industry, the turnover is high, and a lot of operators at one point will go looking for greener pastures, right? They might find them. They might not find them, right? You could have a bad boss. You could have a bad, operation. You could have bad, whatever the reason is that you want to leave, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that you should never leave an employer.
Mm-hmm.
But you are right. You could have done 5 years at that place and been a stud and been an absolute team player, A1 operator, and all of that can easily be forgotten with 2 weeks of hell.
Yep.
Right? From an employer standpoint, and I know that it doesn't always allow it based on, call volume, different things, whatever your scheduling is like. From an employer standpoint, I believe that as soon as an operator offers his 2 weeks, you let him go.
Yep.
And it is not personal.
Yep.
It is not that you think they're a bad operator. It is not that you think any of those things. It's that 2 weeks is where something could go wrong.
Yeah.
And why? If that operator, has given his 2 weeks and he's been a good employee to you and everything else, just have them. A lot of times if they're giving you the 2 weeks because they already have something else lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And most time those other places are willing to take them on in that 2 week period. So pay out the 2 weeks and get rid of it. It's much easier than somebody doing a damage claim in the last 2 weeks. It's much easier than there being some controversy among drivers or something. You know what I mean? Because this guy doesn't give a shit anymore. Mm-hmm. And he just wants to be gone, right? It can create issues.
Oh, yeah. It brings overall morale down if I don't give a rat's ass about how the company works or the workflow, and you're still trying to do your best on the day-to-day.
Yeah. And I'm just here for myself at this point because I have lost my motivation for the company, because at the end of the day, I'm leaving the company.
Yeah.
So if it's possible, and I'm not saying it is, in an ideal world, you cut them right then. Mm-hmm. Hey, work out the rest of the day. Yeah. And after that, we'll shake hands and part ways, and I'll give you your 2 weeks, and you can do with that what you please. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's not a, you got to pay out the time. You got to follow whatever your labor laws entail when it comes to it. I'm not saying try and find an easy out on this guy. Yeah. Right? Don't fire him because he quit. It's a mistake I've made in my life. Right? But just to keep things from going south.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you are an operator and you are going to work out your 2 weeks, you're 100% right. Your whole reputation on what they're going to remember you for is how you dealt with those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So as tough as it is, and it is tough,
Mm-hmm.
right? I remember leaving a company once, and I had a lot of respect for that company. Actually, two of the companies that I've left, I've had a ton of respect for.
Yeah.
Right. And so I made sure in that 2 week period that nothing changed. But even that, to say nothing changed and having all the respect in the world for that company,
Mm-hmm.
it is still hard to not be checked out a bit.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to, I don't think it's completely avoidable. I don't think you'll ever have somebody that'll give their 2 weeks and be 100% invested, and it's like they never did.
Yeah,
and if
you can't expect that.
And if they are, you need to find a better way to not let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're obviously a valued employee if they are willing to still stick that out with you after giving their 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's different if you are going from one tow company to another tow company, but if you're actually getting out of the industry as a whole, I think it's a lot easier for that operator. If he's saying screw the towing industry, it's a lot easier for him not to give a hoot about the last 2 weeks.
You mean if he's jumping out of the industry fully, you think it's easier for him?
If he's going to go pump concrete instead of tow, well, then he doesn't really care how the towing industry is going to shape up at that company or in general anymore. But if I'm jumping from working from Bill's towing to Jeff's towing, well, I'm probably still going to run into some of the Bill Towing's operators from time to time, and maybe it's in my best interest not to treat them like garbage in my last 2 weeks.
Let's be honest though. Most, and I don't know, maybe I'm pulling numbers out of my ass, but most what I would call great operators or top operators are A-type personalities, right?
Yeah.
I think we've proven that. There's some great B-type personalities in there, and I'm not saying it's all A, you know what I mean? All great operators are A-type. I'm just saying most.
Yeah.
And most A-type personalities are assholes. Also fact. Not all, most. So I don't think it matters if A-type asshole is leaving towing or leaving that company. A lot of times it's just how the personality goes. They're checked out and they're out. I don't think it really matters if they're getting out fully or swapping companies, because at that point they've made their decision and they're checking out.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm going to see you down the road. I'm going to see you from what I believe is a better situation.
Yeah.
Right? Because no one's leaving to go to a worse situation or what they assume is going to be a worse situation. They are all doing it to go to a better situation.
Yeah.
So at that point, a lot of A-type personality people have a tendency to look down on the ones that are left behind, because I'm doing this because I'm trying to better myself. Why are you still there? Why do I owe you anything?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying all.
It's a vicious cycle of that thinking, though.
That what? That you're better than people? 100%.
Yeah. Very vicious, because then what if, for whatever reason, you had to relocate for that new job, but then all of a sudden you have to move back to the town that you were in, and now you got to ask for your job back at Bill's after you went to Jeff's, and that didn't work out for you.
I had that exact scenario. I left the company that I'm currently with and attempted with another local company.
Yep.
Now, because a lot of the people that I know listen to this, I'm not going to shit on another local company, but it was not for me.
Yep.
It was in no way, shape, or form for me. Compared to what I came from, I found it completely unorganized. I found it to be a cluster. Equipment was subpar. A lot of things. There was a lot of faults that I had with this company that just didn't fit my style. At the time that I left, I thought I was making an improvement for myself. I treated my company fair. I gave them 2 weeks notice. I left. And I, because it's a local small town, I raised a little hell with them when I was with the other company. Because that's your job at the time, the way things were. And then I left, and I did maybe 2 months with that company, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this. So I took off to where you and I work together, right? 4 hours away, where I knew nobody, knew nothing, and started fresh. When I came back to the company that I started with, that I left to go to this other company thinking I was greener pastures, enough time had passed that although we had our differences, and trust me, we did, right? The owner and I have this joke that he fired me once and I quit once. What's going to be the tiebreaker? this time around, right? We had our differences, right? We were both growing, we were both learning, but enough time passed that you were able to grow.
Yeah.
I hate this foot in, foot out, foot in, foot out. I don't believe if you mess stuff up and it gets to the point that you are either you take off and leave a company stranded, or it gets to the point the company has to terminate you because you've left them stranded so many times, that in 6 months, and there's exceptions to this, but in 6 months you should be walking back in the door and being welcomed. I believe there is at least a year before you can grow and come back into a situation, because what does it create, right? You talked about vicious cycles, and that's what it does. People aren't dumb, and we get so caught up in needing employees to cover and running into these issues that we forget that these employees are not stupid. No. Well, if you see Joe, who's quit, told everybody to F off, was an ass, left, but was a good operator because he's an A-type personality, and those things can go together. 2 months later, comes back, and you bring him back, no problem. Whether it be, I don't know if there's any punishments, repercussions, whatever the deal is. And then Joe is kind of still a dick. What do you think your other employees see? What do you think your other operators see?
Well, I can't trust him. He left.
No, but I can be a dick and walk away. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? I can still come back.
Yeah.
And there'll be no repercussions. Right? Why should I play by the rules whenever Joe didn't play by the rules? And he's been welcomed back with open arms. These are all trends that happen in the towing industry.
Especially I know a lot of times when an operator leaves, maybe not on such great terms, the slander that goes on about that operator at the company can be pretty brutal. And then that operator comes back. Well, all that stuff has been said behind their back, and you probably formed your own opinions, whether they be accurate or not. You're going to have these opinions about this operator before he even walks in the door.
I know what operator you're talking about. I stand by all those opinions.
I don't think we're talking about the same operator.
Oh, you were not referring to the $1 Million Man?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you know who I'm talking about, the $1 Million Man?
Yes, I know who. Okay. Yes, I've met the $1 Million Man a couple of times.
Yeah, the $1 Million Man. But no, it's true. Yeah, you can get, now that's childish in its own. Never base an opinion of somebody off of somebody else, right? I've worked with guys, for guys, right? Above them, below them, whatever it is, positions that you are within companies, where I've heard all kinds of terrible about this manager. I don't care. It's what you do to me. It's how you interact with me. It's how you treat me. Yep. And it is the same way with the employees. Oh, you got to watch this guy. He's always, cool. I interact with how you talk to me and how you deal with me. Right. Yeah. And you got to learn to deal with that, especially management. I've definitely learned that. Same thing. These guys, I hear stories of them. They're not happy with me. I'm aware. You don't think I did the same thing to my managers? You think I agreed with every one of their opinions? No. So trust me, I don't come around and the table, if the table gets quiet and what are you talking about? Oh, well, nothing. No, I know what you were talking about. You weren't happy about that thing that you had to do last week. I get it. It wasn't personal. I'm sorry. It happened. Right? So, but that's what you talk about, the trash talk on guys. I'm a big believer. You got a problem with somebody, go talk to them. Yeah. Just go talk to them. Towing has been, and I always say it like that, like towing has a problem with this or towing does something like this. The problem is because we've been around towing for so long. I'm sure other industries and other, jobs face this. I've always found that towing had a very, considering it's for the most part, a bunch of grown men or a bunch of grown adults, period, in the industry. My God, it can be dramatic.
Oh, yes.
My God, it could be, the
girlfriend who works in a school, she teaches kindergarten, and it's mostly women. I think there's like 3 male teachers in this whole school. She says there's more drama that goes on in my company of like 10 employees as her whole school with like 50 teachers.
Yep. And it's something with it. I don't know if it's because we're tired or cranky. We do all kinds of crazy hours. I don't know what it is that causes it.
I think a part of it is we all do the same job, but we have different avenues and different perspectives of how to do that job. So when someone does when someone uses the BakPul hitch instead of frame forking that trailer hitch, we just go, bah, that's not right.
You know what? That's a great point.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody at McDonald's makes the burger the same way.
Yeah.
They make the fries the same way.
Yeah. The teachers have a lesson plan that they have to teach, and they have to do that. The fire department has the same structure that they need to do for different circumstances.
And we're just a bunch of yahoos running around doing things 100 different ways.
Yeah. As long as it's not, as long as it's one of the 100 right ways and not 1,000 wrong ways, you're doing okay. And we've said that multiple times on this show, and I think that's a good, but also a bad thing in the same regard. And we can't get away from it because everything's different all the time.
I think you're right on that. You know what? I never really put much thought into that. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right. Is that because we don't have that standardized? Mm-hmm. There is so many different ways to do it. There's, you get that creativity. Yeah. There's no, a plumber and electrician have a building code.
Yeah.
Right now, mind you, they may do things with slight variances on how they might strip their wires or how they may do their different things. I get that. But us, we don't have a towing manual that says when this is, for basic stuff, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. Car is locked in park, apply, hammer skates under wheels, winch on. You hear guys arguing over which dish soap to use to slide a car off of a flatbed. Here's an idea. Don't use dish soap, use a skate.
Yeah.
Right. So I can see that, it is because there's so many different ways to do it, and because we all do the same job, and because, let's be honest, again, it comes back to we're a lot of A-type personalities who tend to butt heads and have a certain arrogance about them. Mm-hmm. That it is true. It creates a dramatic schoolyard bullshit of a workplace sometimes.
I think this is a perfect time to pull up your video because it's a way to do it, but it's not a way that we would do it.
Which one are we talking about?
The rollover fail.
No, I don't want that one. Before we get to that one, we're going to talk about Mr. John Adley's question because that leads better into it. So let's get to a question for our listeners. We talked about it. We like your emails. We like your questions. Feel free to email us at thetowinglife@gmail.com. Leave them down below on YouTube or head on over to Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast or towinglife.ca. Okay. So Mr. Adley responds, I work for a family-owned and operated company out of Western Maine. I don't know if you guys will discuss this, but just a quick question for what would you do situation. Company in the town next door to us got a call for a rollover. Instead of rolling the car over, he proceeded to winch the car up his deck upside down and loop the chain through the rear window. And that was his only tie down point. I'm all for getting the job done and shit. But to me, that just seems ridiculous. We live in a very rural area and the sheriff gives us all the time in the world to do the job right. My question for you guys, unless it was blocking a freeway, would doing that ever be okay? Would you ever do it? And then he goes on to mention that after that happened, he left it upside down on his flatbed for 4 days following the accident, which I hate when people leave shit on their flatbeds instead of just unloading it when it gets back to the shop. Thanks for considering. So
there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot. Well, not really. No, the two questions were simple.
Yeah.
Would you ever do it? Would you load a car on its roof? And is there a situation where it would be okay if you would do it?
I think if, let's say you're doing a single lane off or on ramp, doing it, dragging a car that's on its roof, how it got onto its roof in the single lane, I don't know, but we see things that we can't believe all the time. Dragging it onto your bed there just because you might not have the space to spin the car 90 degrees and try to get it rolled over and then spin it back 90 degrees, or trying to, like if it's sideways, right? Upside down. So it's not like this video that we can show later, right? To drag it onto your bed on its roof to get it to your yard and roll it in your yard. Okay. I can see that. Is it ideal? No.
Have you ever been trained on a single lane rollover recovery?
Yes.
How to do one in a single lane?
Yes, but I'm saying if you're on a busy off ramp and you're the only guy there.
In this situation, he's saying that his sheriff's office gives them plenty of time.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it sounds like laziness. What I would like to know, if he, and I have a feeling I know the answer, when he did unload it, did he just leave it on his roof?
Probably.
For the next guy to deal with? Because if so, then that has nothing to do with how much time the sheriff gives you, how much. That's just, I'm not in it today. That guy probably gave his 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And is the foot out the door syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? He probably didn't. John will probably come back and correct me on that. Yeah. But would I ever do it? I can't say that I would never do it. Yeah. Have I ever done it? No. I do know an operator who has, an operator I highly respect. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I agreed with it. I wasn't there. Yeah. I wasn't at that scene to be able to make that decision. I have never been put in the situation where I had to make that decision that I needed to load it on its roof. Yeah. I have, this should go to mention, I have done it with a utility trailer though. Mm. I have done it with an enclosed utility trailer. Yeah. That was straight upside down on its roof. Yeah. On a freeway. In a lane. Mm. And so your typical recovery techniques kind of go out the window. Yeah. So in a situation like that, I did load that upside down, and when I got back to my yard, I unloaded it and flipped it right away. Yeah. Leaving stuff on the bed, I don't understand. Like, obviously your call volume must be different. Mm-hmm. Because if you're going to leave something on the bed for 4 days, right? We have this rule. We get these cars where, I had an operator bring one back, and it had to be delivered that night or the next day, whatever we came up with. Mm-hmm. And he said, should I unload it? Yes. And I said, well, the problem is if you don't unload it, I'm going to need the truck. Yeah. If you unload it, the truck will sit there all night. Mm-hmm. So yes, unload it. Because if you don't, and I need that truck in the middle of the night, yeah, I don't have time to be unloading it. Mm-hmm. So, that part to me is baffling. But I've never been put into a situation, John, where I would need to. Yeah. I can't say that there's not a situation that it would justify because, again, the operator's doing the best they can with what they have. If everything is as easy as you're saying in this scenario, maybe you feel he didn't need to. But I can't, that scenario specifically can't point out. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I would.
I mean, if he's the type of person to leave something on his bed for 4 days, upside down or not, I feel like it is laxed enough to just, at least roll it over once you get it back to the yard.
Yeah, I feel like there's at least time for that. I think he should just do this, right? Who needs a lane? Well, you can just end over. I don't know why so many people try and do this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why do you try to do this? Like, bang, and then unhooks, and then rolls away.
Yeah.
Like, congratulations, G Gerbo won for the awesome video. But that part, I don't understand.
For the audio listeners, it was a car that was on its roof. The operator of the tow truck backed his flatbed up to the front of the car and used his flatbed to make a pivot point in front of the front axle, run his winch line to the back axle, and winch the car pretty much right where it sat over to get the wheels on the bed.
He tried to end over end roll it onto his bed. We've all seen it. We've seen it attempted in multiple times. And I've never seen a clean execution where I would go, wow, that was beautiful. And that man deserves a medal. I mean, even if they land it, which they normally don't, in a situation like this, it runs away, or just the pure strain on the equipment.
Yeah. Especially since you've got your bed in the air at that time, just the shock load coming down.
There's just all kinds of bad. Don't do it. No. Just don't do it. So, John, I hope that answers your question because, that's the closest thing I got. Right, that is the closest thing I got. Speaking of things that you shouldn't do, you shouldn't do this. Actually, I wonder if it'll work if we do this. Nope, it won't. Let's go back to here.
What's wrong with that?
What is first? Oh, there's a front axle in that trailer.
Yeah, it's a dolly trailer.
What do you mean a dolly trailer?
So the front axle actually pivots on the bed of the trailer.
Oh shit!
So that's another pivot point.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
that's even that though. That looks small for a full size Sprinter van.
Well, that's probably over in Europe by the looks of it, somewhere across the pond.
Is it secured? It looks secured. Man, Europe, you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. If you haven't seen this video, it's a Saab station wagon hauling this 3-axle.
Looks like a BMW, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe I like to call it a sob.
It is the left-hand drive, though, so I'm not sure where it is. But it does look to have an elongated license plate, so...
Elongated license plate. Hauling a full-size Sprinter. Well, it looks like a single rear wheel. Maybe dual. It's hard to tell. Full-length Sprinter on this little trailer with these tiny little tires. They're not much bigger than dolly tires. A little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
That's a little oversized. And then there's tie-downs, right? Have you seen these?
Yeah, I just looked at those on Facebook before we started.
Oh, here. Okay, we got 3 moments. I don't know what this front hookup idea is and why he didn't just do something else.
Yeah.
Over on the right hand side, but the middle one, running the chain up and over the exhaust like that.
Yeah.
Ow, almost on the tire, whatever. And then the grab hook to the open link. Like my chain is just not long enough. So I'm like, Dot would have a MTO, Dot, whoever is your enforcement agency, would have an absolute field day.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
Like there is no reason to have an grab hook into an open link.
Yeah.
Guess what? You probably could have, if you weren't over your exhaust, maybe you could have grabbed another link.
Well, it almost looks like you could just move the bear trap up one more notch on the side rail there and be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like it looks like there's better options than what is happening here.
Now, don't get me wrong. There is times where you need to do something that you would never do in any other circumstance. But in this instance, there's just so many things wrong. You can't fault you can fault the guy for just not knowing what to do.
I mean, this just looks like a lack of training.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go as far as saying that this is like, I think this is just lack of training.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is just a lack of training, absolutely showing its ugly face.
Yeah.
And we should probably look into better training for this operator.
Yeah. Thankfully, it wasn't on the back of a tow truck, so...
Oh, it's not like our next video? This is what happens when it's on the back of a tow truck?
Yeah.
This is a great one. If you haven't seen this video of the runaway dollied vehicle, I don't know where this happened. It's North America.
Yeah.
It's either us or our wonderful neighbors down the south. And I love how it clips back to the guy just absolutely laughing at him as this dollied or this front dollies on the front wheel of some SUV came unhooked from what looks like an auto loader.
Yeah.
It wasn't strapped down. This is why you run your straps, ladies and gentlemen. And it's rolling down the road, and the tow truck is almost just pacing with it, waiting for it to stop and not letting it run into his vehicle.
It's probably a repo truck because I don't see a single beacon light on the roof of that tow truck either.
Well, then he wasn't operating out of Toronto and didn't have all of them going. Yeah, so like I said, I don't know where it is. I'm trying to stop it at different points. When he looks down at the dash, maybe we can see miles.
The sad part is, you know what? That guy probably just paced with that car perfectly and put his auto loader back up and bumped the back tires, scooped it, and carried on.
And acted as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
No, nothing to see here, boss. I mean, I hope he would get around the corner and at least take the straps off. Or put the straps on, I mean.
After I would hope. If it's already fallen off once.
You would hope. But, I mean, we've seen crazier things.
Yeah.
We have seen people do things that make absolutely zero sense, and they continue to do them over and over and over again. And thankfully for them, we have content to keep bringing to this show. So as much as we want betterment for the industry, it would be working against us if everybody smartened up tomorrow.
I used to work with a guy who would brag about towing a car with no straps on the bed. Not even a winch line. He drove the car into the bed, put her in park, and went around the corner with not a single strap on it. He'd brag about it. He would send me pictures and like, no strap life, ha 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 ha. Because I would always give him shit for not having enough straps on said vehicle. So he would prove me wrong by sending me pictures of doing just the least amount possible to make it safer for him and the motoring public.
Jesus. Well, the advice that I can give anyone listening to this show, don't willingly go out and give us content. But be sure to, when you do spot it, at least give us a shout and send it to us, and we'll gladly play it and look at it over and give our, like John asked, we'll give our opinions on it, right, wrong, or indifferent. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and so do we.
Fight us down below in the comment section if you don't agree with our opinions.
So, on behalf of myself, my wonderful co-host, TowManG.
Not your wife this time.
Not my wife this time. Not my rock. Instead, my headache.
Yep.
Mr. TowManG. We appreciate you guys coming out to another episode of the Towing Life podcast. We cannot wait to see you again next week. Don't forget to head over and submit your recovery of the month now. towinglife.ca. Take care.
Toodles.
It's like, we're going to do this. Like, fuck, we are.
We're not professionals. We don't plan things ahead of time. We just kind of go with the flow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, what do you want me to talk about? I don't know. I never did get back to them on where to watch Hell on the Highway. If you're still here, I have not found a way to watch Hell on the Highway. It was on National Geographic, though. So head over to National Geographic and find it.